Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
It's November, and that means the Leafs should be turning a corner, as the past few seasons they have had really good win-loss records in November, so let's hope that continues this season. Keeping with the winning theme, check out betonline.ag. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen.
With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL, to entertainment and political props as well, head to betonline.ag today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know needs support or advice, reach out to Connex Ontario or an organization near you.
All right, so we want to thank Dan Robertson, the senior enterprise writer at The Athletic, for chatting with us and telling our personal story of being Leaf fans and how, win or lose, we are always behind our favorite team.
Yes, we have shared the link to the article in our show notes, and we would love to hear some of your stories as well about your love for the Leafs. You can email us at our email, which is ladiestalkingleafs@gmail.com, or message us on social media. Our handle is at LTL1917. We would love to hear from you, and we will share a couple of your stories on our next Ladies Talking Leafs show.
And speaking from hearing from you, and specifically for our Spotify listeners, we have audience poll questions for every show. So we want to hear from you. Answer these poll questions for us. While listening to the episode, all you have to do is scroll down, and there's a section where you can leave a comment, which would be great as well, about the episode, and answer our poll question. It's pretty simple. Normally, it's just a yes or no. And we would love to get your thoughts on the show, the Leafs, and get your feedback by answering our poll question for that episode. We always reply to every comment, and of course, don't forget to hit that follow button, and we'll have you up to date on the Leafs all season long.
All right, so now we have a great show lined up for you, and we're going to start it off with the Ladies Talking Leafs highlight reel. And then for our third period segment, we welcome back to our show our Ladies Talking Leafs insider, Mike Augello, to talk contracts, trades, and a whole lot more. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right, so October was kind of up and down for the Leafs. You could tell that they're getting used to the new system under Craig Berube. The final week, though, was pretty good with wins over the Jets and the Kraken. So it's time to see who made the Ladies Talking Leafs highlight reel. Let's roll it.
All right, so coming in at number 3, we have Auston Matthews. So he hasn't been scoring at the pace that we've been accustomed to seeing, but he did have a very unique empty net goal versus the Seattle Kraken. The captain took a bank shot off the boards and got the right angle, and it went straight into the net. It was funny because afterwards people were asking him, how's your billiards game? And he said, of course, he's terrible at pool. But yeah, he definitely saw the angle there. And I thought it was also interesting because he's not the one to get a lot of empty net goals. So yeah, if you're going to get one, you better do it in style like that.
Yeah, he's, I think this is the first time we've had an empty net goal on our highlight reel too.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
of all the things, an empty net goal from Auston Matthews. But yeah, he hasn't had much, I guess. We're not used to seeing him not produce as much like he has been, but it'll come around anyways. We're not concerned about that. But yeah, that was a real interesting way to score. Normally players I know in practice, they kind of they take bank shots and stuff like that, just to get the feel of the rink. And I guess maybe he did practice that. Who knows? But
anyways, good.
Yeah. Look good to us. Anyways, win in the net. That's the main thing. All right. So coming in at number 2, someone that's becoming a favorite of ours on the highlight reel, a new guy to the team, is goaltender Anthony Stolarz. So Stolarz split the past 4 games with Joseph Woll. In both of the games he played versus Winnipeg and Minnesota, he was strong under pressure in the third period of both of those games, where he made some really spectacular and crucial saves. it's a huge boost for the Leafs to know that they have a reliable 1B, or perhaps he's becoming the 1A goalie. I don't know. It's getting interesting here because he's making the saves when he needs to, and I mean,
even without a stick.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
what was the deal with that? Like, how many? I've never seen that so many times. Like, Samsonov used to lose his stick a lot, but in one game, I don't think I've ever seen it that many times. But
anyway.
And
it's unbelievable, just for such a big guy, how he's able to. He
moves so well.
Yeah, he moves well, and but he still has this calming presence back there, like to know that he's gonna make that save. Wall, I think Joseph Wall is still having a little bit of issues just getting back from the injury. I think he needs more time, and he is a young goalie, so he'll be okay. But in the meantime, I'm hoping they play Stolars versus the Bruins on the Tuesday night, and then into the weekend there's a back-to-back coming up, so they'll split those. But yeah, definitely worthy of number 2.
Exactly. And coming in at number 1, we have William Nylander. Willie has asked Coach Berube for more ice time, but in the meantime, he is going about his business with 13 points in 13 games that the Leafs have played. So versus Minnesota, he got the Leafs a power play goal, which snapped an 0 for 23 drought on the road going back to last season's playoffs, if you can believe that. That alone makes Willie well deserving of our number 1 spot in this installment of the highlight reel.
Yeah. He's just his usual self, basically. Yeah. And definitely just the fact that he was the one to break that awful streak of the road of not scoring a power play goal on the road. That alone makes him worthy, like you said, of being number 1. And I think he's kind of like, I don't know. He just doesn't any pressure or anything, like it just doesn't bother him, and he's just going about his business. Whereas I think maybe Matthews and Marner are still they're trying to figure things out under Craig Berube's system. So I don't know. It's just a different mentality, I guess that Willie has. And point a game, can't ask for more than that, right? Right. I mean,
and the fact that he's still hungry for more ice time, I kind of love that too. He's been a lot feistier this season, like just even like shots of him like on the bench. He seems like there's like a definitely
more
an
intensity,
intensity,
sort of.
Yeah. So I kind of like to see that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're looking forward to a lot more November highlight reel moments, and there are some roster decisions that will have to be made by GM Brad Treliving in short order as well. So to talk about this and all the Leaf related news, for our third period segment, we are welcoming back to the show Ladies Talking Leafs insider Mike Augello.
So we are just past the 10-game mark of the season, and to get his thoughts on the Leafs early in this 2024-25 season, we welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs our insider Mike Augello.
So Mike covers the Leafs and the NHL as a reporter and is a member of the Professional Hockey Writers Association. For 15 years, Mike has covered the Leafs on HockeyBuzz.com and is co-host of Off the Post Radio and the Leafs Convo. Mike is also the site manager for the hockey news covering the Buffalo Sabres. As always, Mike, thank you for coming on the show.
Good morning, ladies. And in my spare time, I do feats of magic. But
we're waiting to see some of that magic. Yeah. Maybe you'll magically make the Leafs win the Stanley Cup. How's that?
Hey, I brought some tang. There you go.
Oh my God. All right, let's get into it. We got a lot to cover because we haven't had Mike on in a long time, since September. So, it's been a busy week this week with GM Brad Treliving. I guess, and we'll start with the signing of defenseman Jake McCabe. What did you think of the signing? 5 years at $4.51 million AAV, I guess. Yeah.
Well, there are a number of things that are, okay. Elliot Friedman reported that there was mutual interest in getting a deal done with McCabe going back to, I think, April or May. So, he was entering the final year of his contract, and I'm sure everybody recalls the deal that he brought him here along with Sam Lafferty from Chicago. They gave up a first round pick, but part of that was that the salary, half of his salary was retained. So he was only a $2 million cap hit. So him being signed to an extension is going to be a bump in the salary cap, toward next year. And that, I think, factored into the other moves that they've made this week. But he's been really solid. He's been pretty dependable. He's been physical, which is something that has been missing on the Leafs blue line for a while. The main concern I had when the trade was made in February of 2023 was his health, because he'd had a number of injuries going back to his career in Buffalo. And then I think he had a knee injury, I think it was, when he was with Chicago. But, knock on wood, he's been very healthy and very stout on the blue line. So I understood that the mutual interest. He apparently loves it in Toronto. I think the thing that, from the outside perspective, I was talking to a Buffalo reporter, and he had a history in Buffalo, and they're like, 5 years. I'm like, I think they gave him an extra year to spread the AAV out, but I think and I have no problem with the 4.5. I think that's a good value for a veteran defenseman. The Leafs blue line now, if you look at now they have Riley, Ekman Larson, Tanev, and McCabe. They're all over 30. So you're gonna, you're going to have to hope that these guys are, go to the fountain of youth with Ponce de Leon, so that they can survive. But the factor here that I don't think it's lost because it was reported, but I think that going forward, and it started with the Leon Draisaitl contract, was the deferred money. Mm-hmm. They deferred money, I think it was years 2 and 3, to lower the cap hit from 4.7 to 4.5. And, people would say, okay, that's only $200,000. Yeah. But that is something that is a tool that Brad Treliving absolutely has to use going forward, because you've got $11.5 million on Nylander. You've got 13.25 on Matthews. My personal opinion, I don't think they're re-signing Mitch Marner, but if they're going to add other players, deferred money is the way to keep those cap hits lower. All these other teams that have the no tax situation in Texas or Florida or whatever, that's their advantage. The Leafs and their billions of MLS&E, that is their advantage. Use the deferred money to keep the cap hits low. But I think it was a good deal. Maybe a year too long, but I think it was a good deal.
Yeah, the fact too, I guess we actually gave up the first round pick for him and Sam Lafferty, I guess, in the deal that brought him here from Chicago, right? So that first round, it's conditional first round pick in 2025, so next year. But I guess at least we're keeping the one player anyways from that deal too, right? And yeah, and he's a solid defenseman, solid number 3, probably number 4 defenseman.
3-4, yeah.
Second pair. And considering that, they were paying some of his contract in Chicago, he really didn't take that much of an increase, so it's, he got a bit of a raise, but not a huge one. So that shows how much he wants to play here, I think. And I just like the guy. He goes about his business, like there's no drama with him. He just goes out and works.
There's nothing spectacular about him. Mm-hmm. He's just solid. And honestly, over the years, how many, great, Jake Gardner, this unbelievable play. But then, he makes a play that puts it in the back of your net. So I'll take unspectacular as long as, he's a veteran guy. He doesn't make stupid mistakes. And at the end of the game, he's going to be out there, probably along with maybe Tanev, to kill off, like if the goalie is pulled and you're up by a goal, Jake McCabe's going to be out there. So he's a solid defenseman.
What do you think about the fact that he's put Tanev and him together recently? Berube, I'm talking about.
Yeah, I had always imagined Riley and Tanev being together. Mm-hmm. If you look at it, McCabe and Tanev is a pure shutdown matchup pairing, and then you have Riley and Ekman Larson as your sort of your offensive pairing. And I have to say, Ekman Larson has really surprised me. I thought, he played well in Florida last year, but I think in everyone's mind's eye, you were thinking about his last year or so in Arizona, then him being traded to Vancouver, where all the disappointment was. But the disappointment was the fact that he was a $8-point-something million defenseman in Vancouver. Once he got traded, he got bought out by Vancouver, and he went to Florida, and he's making $3 million. okay, the way he's playing, that's pretty good. And now he's I think, $3.25 million. He's playing a lot better than that. So there's still something there. He's occasionally being the point guy in the power play. He's been really good. So that top four of the Leafs blue line right now with Riley, Tanev, Ekman Larson, and McCabe is probably the best top four that they've had since the Pat Quinn days. And that's saying a lot.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to the next bit of business for Brad Treliving. And that was trading defenseman, since we're still on the D here, Timothy Liljegren to the San Jose Sharks for a veteran defenseman, Matt Benning, a third-round pick in 2025 and a sixth-rounder in 2026. So do you think this was a good or not so good deal for the Leafs?
Well, all the reporting has been is that the market for Liljegren was essentially non-existent. And I mean, it's a little surprising because he's only 25. He's talented. He's right-handed. He can skate. He can occasionally point the power play. I mean, I think the fact is that from where he was in terms of being a highly regarded prospect when he was drafted in 2017 to where he is now, I mean, there's a little disappointment there. I mean, I know a lot of Leaf fans thought, okay, this guy is going to be on the right side of our blue line for years. And either he got hurt or he didn't play well. And then when the playoffs came around, like Joel Edmondson was added. So, they're not going to play him as much. And, they'd always add somebody and Liljegren would be the odd man out with Sheldon Keefe. And I thought, okay, well, Berube comes in, maybe he'll get a fresh outlook. And here he gets beaten out by Yanni Hakanpää, or not even Yanni Hakanpää, by Philippe Myers and Connor Timmins. So, during the summer and the way it was explained, they didn't want to go to arbitration with him because they weren't sure they would get him at an amount like $3 million, which is what they ended up agreeing to. Treliving crafted this deal where it was a heavy signing bonus so that he would be more attractive in a trade because he'd only have $1 million base salary, and that a young defenseman with another year on his contract would also be attractive. So it sounds like they made that deal essentially to trade him. Mm-hmm. He didn't have a great training camp. Apparently he admitted, well, I should have been better. But the long and the short of it here is this is a guy who I thought, and a lot of people thought, was going to be on this team for a long time. And he just really never showed the potential, realized the potential that he had. Do I think he's a good defenseman? Yes. Do I think he'll do well in San Jose? Probably playing top pairing or second pairing minutes. Yeah. I mean, he could bloom into something there because, nobody's going to notice. They're a last place team.
They already showed him on the power play at practice yesterday with San Jose. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Okay.
And they need young guys like that.
We can't go back to this deal in 3 years if Timothy Liljegren is an all-star with San Jose and say, this is Randy Carlyle 2.0. We traded a guy. No, the Leafs gave him enough of an opportunity to make a difference.
Yeah.
Now, maybe he doesn't think so, but I mean, he had been with the Marlies for almost 4 years. He'd been with the Leafs for 3+ years. He had an opportunity. It was up to him to really step up and do something. So, that all being said, the trade itself, they needed draft capital. Getting a 3 and a 6 back in this deal, I mean, partially replenishes the picks that Kyle Dubas exhausted. So now I believe they have a 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 for the 2025 draft, which, going into the draft last year, they had a 5, 6, and a 7. They had nothing in the first 4 rounds. Now they have a second round pick, a third round pick. Maybe they get more picks. The talk is that they're probably going to flip Matt Benning, who they got in the deal. He's a low price veteran, 30 years old. He's a righty, but right now they have 9 defensemen. So when Hakanpää comes back, they have 9 defensemen. So I think that more than likely, it sounds like, I think Elliot Friedman or Pierre LeBrun reported that they're already talking to teams about flipping Benning. So if they get another draft pick for Benning, then that's 3 draft picks. they really need, if you're investing millions of dollars in a scouting staff to go out there and find prospects in the draft, there's a thing that you need. They're called draft picks.
Yep.
So,
Otherwise, the scouts are really like, what are they working for, right? They've got nothing to do, really.
Give me that job. Send me to Helsinki. And then, go check out prospects. And then you have no picks. Oh, well, okay, whatever.
But they're like, it's just, they like watching them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Free trip.
Yeah. All right. Well, that kind of leads us into our next question. You mentioned, I guess, Jani Hakanpää, and both he and Connor Dewar are on an LTR conditioning loan to the Marlies now. So sounds as though they've been ready to go for a few days now anyways. But once that is done, GM Brad Treliving will have to make another move or take a chance on the waiver wire, I guess, with some of these players. There's just too many bodies, especially on the forwards, especially.
Mm-hmm.
And we know Philip Myers will be sent back, most likely, to the Marlies. Do you think there'll be another trade, or what do you think is going to happen here moving forward with all these players? Because there's the 23-man roster, right? That is the maximum, I guess, on the team.
What? Right.
Allowed, yeah.
Well, okay. First of all, the LTIR conditioning stint is a time buying mechanism here. I think they said it was 3 games or 6 days, or so they buy themselves a week. And that in that instance, Brad Treliving is probably talking to other general managers, feeling out possibilities of potential deals. Plus, I believe the general managers meeting is next week, to go along with the Hall of Fame ceremonies. So, he might be able to consummate something at the GM meeting, or before the GM meeting, or during the GM meeting. So I think that was the reason. They may be 100%, they may be ready, but I think it was just, okay, let's buy ourselves a little time. That being said, Hakanpää is going to be on the roster. It makes no sense. It made no sense to sign him if he wasn't going to be a 6th, 7th defenseman. I believe right now with Benning, you have 9 defensemen. So, the most you're going to carry is 8. I would think that, they're going to try to flip Benning and get whatever they can from him. And if they can't flip him, they'll place him on waivers. Then maybe somebody will claim him. Myers, they've only played him 1 game, and he's been around. So if you're trying to formulate who can get through waivers, there's a good likelihood they could slip him through and he'll go to the Marlies. Yeah. So, I don't think they want to carry any more than 8 defensemen. So right now they have a bevy. If it was me, in terms of clearing a spot for Connor Dewar, I would waive Ryan Reeves in about 2 seconds because he's useless. He really is. Yeah. If he is not doing his job and being physical and dropping the gloves and, being
a fourth line though has been pretty good with him, don't you think? With Lawrence?
I don't. I think I don't think the fourth line, I like what Lorenz does.
Yeah.
If you have Camp or Holmborg playing fourth line, it's fine. He is a liability. He cannot keep up with the play. The only thing that he does, and if he does this, then okay, then that's the price you have to pay for having him on your roster. If he's physical, if he knocks people over, if he's strong along the boards, if he's a pot stirrer, then he's doing his job. Fine. I have barely noticed him. When does he do anything? He doesn't hit anybody. He's dropped the glove once?
He hasn't taken too many stupid penalties though, too. Right? So that's good.
I've noticed him skating towards the net and making plays there, but I guess that's not really what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, great. I don't think any stupid penalties. I can't move. Okay. You're supposed to be disciplined if you're 37 years old and you played in the league as long as Reeves. If I was the general manager, I wouldn't be bringing him in to be disciplined. I would bring him in to be a warning against teams, against like Justin Brazeau running people over, when Boston played, Justin Brazeau couldn't play for the Newfoundland Growlers. Now all of a sudden he's running roughshod over the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's like, that's why Ryan Reeves is there. Ryan Reeves is to stop that stuff from happening. And if he's not there to stop that stuff, then why is he there at all?
All right. So he's the first one to go. And then if you, at least that you would like to, I guess, send down or get traded. I don't know what would happen with Ryan Reeves that way, but
nobody in the right mind is claiming Ryan Reeves. That's why
put him on waivers. Yeah.
If you put him on waivers, then he can stay in his condo in Toronto while he's on the bus going to Cleveland or Utica or whatever. And then whenever they play Montreal and they need somebody to fight Arbor Jacki, they can call him up. But right now, I mean, I don't see a role for him. If he's not doing what he's supposed to do, then he's not serving a purpose. Now, the other name that we would bring up here is Nick Robertson. And the way they use Nick Robertson in the game against Seattle, if you're going to use him as a fourth liner, you may as well trade him, because the only way you maximize his value, either in a trade or as a player, is to play him in a scoring role. He is not a fourth line grinder. He is a sniper. Now, he may not be an NHL sniper, but he's a sniper. You've got to put him with Tavares or Domi or somebody who can feed him the puck. And and last year he scored 15 goals, so he can do it. But if this is the role you're going to give him, it's just like spot 13th forward, spot him in, there's no purpose. And, if you place him on waivers, he's going to get claimed. So, if this is the role that they foresee for him, then Brad Treliving is probably going to trade him.
I mean, Robertson wasn't. I mean, he was on the line with Domi and Nylander for a bit, and
right. But
I don't know. And he just hasn't. He hasn't really. He didn't produce. Basically, he didn't do nothing. Like, I don't know. It's not like Berube hasn't given him the opportunity that way to play with better players. But and Berube said that he's happy with him a little, like, for what he's done so far defensively anyways.
Well, okay, but you just said it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the whole point here. Berube wants him to not be a defensive liability. Okay. The problem is that with a lot of players, and I see this in Buffalo all the time, you've got a lot of offensively gifted forwards, and the coach says, well, I don't want you to be a defensive liability. So they work so hard at being good defensively that they have nothing left to do offensively. They're back checking, they're hustling, they're hitting. We want that guy to score. Please, how many years in his career did we complain about? And William Nylander could score, but he was a jackass in his own zone because he could score. I mean, right now, Nick Robertson's 23 years old. You want him concentrating on scoring. And if he's not doing that for you, then him being a shutdown defensive player is just a waste. So again, if they imagine that's going to be the role for this guy, then you may as well trade him to Anaheim or San Jose or someplace where he can play and get draft picks for him, because this is a waste of a player that I think there's more there.
Yeah. Do you think that the fourth line experiment has to do with him, getting a chance to focus on some of that defensive skills and developing that a little bit down there before moving him back up? Because the scoring part is natural. Like, he can do that. But this way, down there, he's, he can work on that.
I don't see why
in game.
Yeah, I don't see why he can't do that on the third line, playing with Bobby McMahon and Max Domi. To me, like, who do they have on the right wing on that line? Pontus Holmberg, who is a converted center. So,
true.
Now Max Domi isn't exactly Bob Gainey. So no, you're basically, trying to cover up for his defense. And that's probably in the mind of Berube. It's like, okay, well, I've got a center who usually doesn't care about playing defense, so I can't put Robertson there as well because he doesn't care about playing, or he's not good at playing defense.
Yeah, but do you want goals?
Right.
You could get some there because Domi's a great setup guy.
Right.
So.
But in my personal opinion, Domi should not be playing center. Domi was when was Domi best last year? Playing on the wing with Matthews, playing on the wing sometimes with Tavares. He was much better as a playmaking winger than he was as a center. As a center, he's okay. But last year as a center, it was when somebody was hurt or they were trying to shake things up. I just don't think he's a good fit. That's why I was really willing to buy into the Nylander at center experiment. Find out whether he can do it. Again, I never want to hear this crap about William Nylander playing center in preseason. No one gives a crap because you're not buying into it, and you eventually move him back to the wing. Don't sell me this crap that you're going to play him at center, because every year, we're going to try and play him at center, and then they move him off of center after 2 games in the preseason. Come on.
Maybe that's just to get the press to not keep asking about, why we're so short in depth on that in that position.
Well,
right?
we talked around this for like late September, early October, and now on November the 2nd, where are we? Austin Matthews, number one center. John Tavares, number 2 center. Gee, wow.
Yeah.
That's new.
That's new. Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
All right. Well, let's move on. So a signing that should happen at some point is Matthew Knies, who is an RFA at the end of this season. Sportsnet's Nick Kypreos suggested that Nyes may be looking for something around the $7 million per season, similar to Habs forward Yuri Slafkovsky. What do you think of the Leafs? How do you think that they're handling the contract negotiations, and do you think it's going to be a long term or a bridge deal at this point?
Well, I'll say this. I'll agree that I think that the figure will be in the $6.5 to $7 million range. That being said, if it's that, it's got to be 7 years, 6 years, 7 years at the minimum. This is not another Austin Matthews situation or William Nylander situation where you're paying the guy top dollar and you're not getting term. There was an NHL insider who was saying, well, there may be a bridge deal. Well, if it's a bridge deal, you can wait until the end of the year. Now, he's scoring boatloads. He's got 6 goals in, I think, 12 games. He's playing with Matthews and Marner. So he's in a great position. And I think he's going to end up scoring 30 goals this year. So it would make sense to be proactive on the part of Treliving to getting him locked up. I think, Slafkovsky, I think, was a little more. The contract I was looking at was the Dylan Guenther contract with the Utah. I think it was a little over $7 million for 7 years. That's the same amount, around the same amount that like Dylan Cousins and Tage Thompson got signed in Buffalo. He's a unicorn. Especially on the Leafs, where we have a bunch of little water bugs. This is a linebacker of a player. This is a guy who's big. I mean, he's not going to go run people over and beat the crap out of them like Tom Wilson, but he's a big, burly power forward. And
yeah, they don't make him like that anymore.
No. And he can move, and he's got hands. So you get this guy signed now. I've been saying since the offseason, get this guy signed now. And with every goal he scores, I will post on X, sign.him.now.
I think I've been noticing that.
Yeah.
Have you heard, have they been talking with the agent?
Yeah, even going back to before the season, he didn't want to talk about it, and I understand that because then that's all anybody will focus on. But he says, "Yeah, I want to be here." He's buddies with Matthews. He plays tennis with him in the off season. They're both from Arizona. I mean, there's enough things there to say, okay, he wants to stay here, and But the one thing, and some people say, well, it doesn't matter. After you get into the NHL, it doesn't matter where you were drafted. It just matters how good you are. Baloney. A guy like Slafkovsky was the number 1 overall pick. So I think he has more leverage than Matthew Knies. But I think the leverage that Matthew Knies has is what I just said. He's a big power forward on a team that is lacking in power forwards. And he's a young guy on a team that, they've got Methuselah playing on the wing. They've got like 35-year-old Max Pacioretty. They have 30-year-olds on the blue line. I mean, there's not much youth in this organization, so he's going to take advantage of that. But yeah, I think get him signed. I wouldn't doubt that it's probably at minimum a 6-year deal. I don't think it's going to be 8 years, probably 6 or 7 year deal at around $7 million. And I have no problem with that. And by the way, if they sign that, And they traded Liljegren out to clear the space because he had $3 million next year. They did that because they signed McCabe. So they had to move Liljegren's money out for next year. If you're signing Matthew Knies, whose contract is up at the end of the year? Who's going to be looking for $11.5 to $12 million a year and who's not going to get it? I wonder who.
You don't think he's going to get it? Like, to me, he's looking like Berube's teacher's pet. He loves him. I can't imagine Berube saying, yeah, let's let him go.
I'm not okay. No, if you're talking
we're talking about Mitch Marner here, right?
Yes. Because that's
clarify
referring to.
Okay. He said I think he has 11 assists right now. He's got 1 goal. I mean, that's not a big deal. He's a facilitator. He's setting up Nyes. He's setting up Matthews. That's his job. I mean, that's the thing. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player. He's going to be.
He does all the things Berube wants everybody to do.
Right.
He does them all.
Right. And, he's going to be on Team Canada at the Four Nations. He's probably going to be on Team Canada in the Olympics. The problem here is, gee, folks, when doesn't he show up? If he shows up in the playoffs, then I think there'll maybe be more, this organization will be more amenable to signing him to an extension. If he doesn't show up, and like, so I hear stuff. I don't know whether it's true, whether it's not true. I'm not in the rumor business, even though I work for a rumor website. I'm not in the rumor business. I just see what I see and interpret things as they come. And right now, I see a great difference between the way the Leafs are approaching Marner than 12 months ago, the way they approached Nylander. You haven't heard a peep from Brad Treliving about, we're negotiating right now and, things are going. Remember, all during the process, we're talking with Louis Gross and, we're trying to get a deal done. We want to keep William here for long term. He's a great player. All Treliving has said is Mitch Marner is a great player. That's all he said. Okay, we know that. Are you trying to sign him? He's not. Mum's the word. Now, maybe that's different because it's Darren Ferris is the agent. I don't know. All I know is, from what I hear, it's play out the year and see where things go. And honestly, if it's play out the year and see where things go, that in my mind that means he's going elsewhere. So if things could change, it's not 100%, but I think they're gonna play out the year. They're gonna see where things go, but I don't see them paying him more than William Nylander, and I don't think Mitch Marner is going to take less than what Nylander is making. So that's we'll see. It's going to be
and if he plays out the year though and see how things go, then basically we get nothing for him.
Right. Well, that's and that problem to me. Right, that's a big problem for me, and that's why I was so for not forcing him, but it's like, okay, Mitch. I was all for Treliving going to Marner during the summer and saying, Mitch, we're not going to sign you after your year is up. If you want the 8 years, then the thing here is, and we'll find this out after the year, we could very well see a sign and trade where they sign him to the 8-year deal and then trade him someplace else. And then the Leafs get something for him. They can control the process. They can get something in return for him. But it's not like they would get the same thing that they would have did if they traded him last summer. That's all gone. He killed that with his no move clause and his talk about not wanting to go anywhere other than Toronto. If you remember, after I think it was the St. Louis game, every time he touched the puck, he was booed. They were booing Marner. I mean, this, Toronto fans are as fickle as anyone. When they're going great, everything is wonderful. When they're going bad, they're going to zero in on somebody. And who are they going to zero in on? The guy who said he didn't want to be traded.
Yeah, he is the whipping boy right now.
Yeah, sure. We talked about that in our last show. We thought it was ridiculous, but anyways, okay. One final question here. We're going to move on to the team on the ice because we've been doing a lot of contract talk here, but so I guess after 11 games, the Leafs are 6-4-1, and it's been an okay start to the season. The core 4 players are leading the team in points. So it still looks like they're trying to adjust to the system, Craig Berube's system a little bit. But what do you think of I guess Berube's deployment of these star players, I mean, and how he's working with them, like the whole Nylander situation with him saying that he wants more ice time and Berube yelling at Matthews on the bench. Do you think that's more like his way of trying to show the accountability or get the accountability in these players? Or is it more about, I guess, like it's that whole idea of the lower end players, like making them feel important too, like to say that they're all equal in this together is, what do you think about the style, I guess, through the first month of the season anyways, that Berube's been handling these players?
Well, for the Matthews thing, I mean, I don't have any problem with it, and I'm not sure Matthews has any problem with it. They knew that when Berube came in, he had a different type of personality than Sheldon Keefe, and honestly, I think it was in the St. Louis game, and it was after they gave up the puck. That line gave up the puck, and I think it was Jake Neighbors' goal. And honestly, if you watch that play, Matthews and that line had their head up their ass. It was a terror. I felt sorry for Joseph Wall in that game. It was his first game of the year, and I agreed with what Berube said. He wasn't responsible for 3 of the goals. I mean, Wall will say, well, I should have stopped 1 or 2 of them, but they were really bad giveaways. I mean, this is something that a team with the experience that this team has shouldn't be doing. I don't really pay attention to anything in terms of the, Nylander wanting ice time. He's going to get ice time. He's leading the team with 8 goals. I mean, it's like, of course he wants more ice time. Okay, Willie, just calm down. You'll get your ice time. You're on the first power play. You're on the second line. They had you out there to get the hat trick late in regulation when you were up against Seattle.
He wants the PK time. He wants to be on the PK more. So
yeah, I don't know. I found it
interesting. He says it's fun.
But I found it interesting. Like he actually brought it out to the media. I don't know, like to kind of challenge Berube that way. I don't know. It's
But as
I don't know if that's going to work for him.
No.
The way he thinks.
No. As for the deployment, I mean, honestly, if we had done this a week ago before they had lost in overtime to Boston, I would say this season right now is not looking great because they were going, they were going and they had lost 2 games in a row at home. And then they go to Boston and, thankfully they get that late goal to get a point, but they lost in overtime to the Bruins. But then they beat Winnipeg, they beat Seattle. Now things are, I'm sorry. Yeah, they beat, and so things look a little better. But they sort of fell into the line combination that's worked really well, which is Pacioretty, Tavares, and Nylander. And like I said before, John Tavares is second line center. Wow. I mean, what a concept. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're not going to use William Nylander at center, your best second line center is the guy that's been playing second line center for the last 7 years? Of course. He's not as fast as he used to be, but he's still a great playmaker. Look at the play that he made on that Nylander goal against Seattle. I mean, that pass was unbelievable. So, and everybody should go to your nearest church and pray for the health of Max Pacioretty, because the way he's playing, not saying he's playing like he did when he was in Montreal or even when he was in Vegas, but pray for the health of his Achilles, because he's playing great. It's just, we don't know whether he's going to be able to stay healthy. And as long as he stays healthy, having that line as a number 2 line behind Nyes, Matthews, and Nylander, or Nyes at Matthews and Marner, that's a great counterpoint. And then, whatever you get out of the 3rd and 4th line is gravy. But you have that second line that's producing like that. I mean, it's only 2 games, but if they could do that all the time, that would be,
and then
make a difference.
The issue, of course, always comes down to that 3rd line, and it's just like you have Domi there. It's always a question mark. Like there's no flow to it there. Like to say that we see consistency to go with Domi, McMahon, and Robertson, I guess, which is what you mentioned earlier, right? Is to maybe give that a look for more than a few games, because
I mean, there is a way to make this a 3-line offensive team, but I think the chaos that it would create probably would not be worth it. I mean, you could put Domi on that top line with Nyes and Matthews, and then you could move Marner down to a second or third line. And it would stretch out your offense. And that might be what they do in the playoffs. But right now, you're not going to mess with it because Marner's got 11 assists and he's setting up now. You're not going to mess with the chemistry. But if they have a losing streak, I wouldn't be surprised if they spread out the offense a little more to make them more of a 3-line offensive team than a 2-line offensive team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, well, I think that just about covers it. Thanks again, Mike, for coming on the show and being our guest today. Everyone, you can check out Mike's Leafs blog on hockeybuzz.com, and he is also co-host of the Leafs Convo podcast and Off the Post Radio covering the NHL, and you can find both shows also on YouTube. And if you don't follow him on X, make sure you do. His handle is @MikeInBuffalo. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
No problem. Thanks.
All right. So thanks again to Mike for coming on the show. I don't know. I found his comment. He's pretty sure that Marner's not going to be back with with us, which kind of surprises me a little bit, like to be that adamant that he's not. I mean, it is possible, obviously, but I've been hearing a little bit more positive news to say that, they're whatever, that it's not that it's 100% he's going to be back, but at least they're apparently talking. And I don't know.
Well, like I said, just from the way Berube's using him, I would find it really hard to believe that he's, not on their radar for wanting to bring him back. Like the way he's using him, that would be a huge hole.
Yeah.
For the roster. Like, who do you see on our current roster right now? They would have to basically replace him with somebody else, like free agent or via trade, because I don't see anybody stepping into that role.
Yeah.
Unless they think, do they think Max Domi is going to be a reasonable facsimile? That is probably the closest. But defensively, no. He's only half of what he provides as far as maybe some of the, passing and playmaking.
Yeah. I don't know, but Mike always has interesting stuff to say.
Absolutely,
sure. Yeah. So there's a big week coming up with the Hall of Fame weekend coming this weekend, and the Leafs play the Bruins, and then they have a rare back-to-back at home playing the Wings on Friday night, and then the Habs on Saturday. So that's 3 divisional games there. Which is going to be huge. This week is really going to be big.
Yeah, it's definitely a big one. And then we have another divisional game at home next week versus the Senators. I think that might be the first time we're going to be seeing them as well. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to watch because they've been playing pretty well of late. And then we're going to be going on the road to face the Washington Capitals the very next night. So it's kind of a weird sort of schedule, but really important, like you said, because there's a lot of division matchups in this week and a bit. So
and that obviously the Bruins, they always have their best game against us, right? And then and the Wings, I don't know how they've been doing too much. I haven't heard too much about them. I think they're doing okay, but and then the Habs are just brutal, but normally, again, they always
they're going to show up to play us.
Yeah, they always do. And the one actually, the Senators, like you said, that's going to be an interesting one because they are definitely playing better this season under Coach Travis Green. But the one that's interesting as well is that Washington Capitals game. They've been Ovi has been lighting it up. So,
well, he's on a mission, I guess.
Yeah.
He's only definitely got 35 more to go.
And the Wayne Gretzky mission. So we'll see how that one is.
He probably knows when he gets up every day how he feels. So he's like, I have to get it done this year. I have to get it done this year. I have to get it done this year.
Yeah. I don't know, he might do it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But let's just hope he doesn't have too many, or if any, goals against us on that. It is a back-to-back, so it's the second half, but we'll see what happens. So a reminder to our audience that we are going weekly this season. So we'll be back next week with another episode of Leafs Quick Hits. If you watch the show on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and you won't miss an episode. Like we said at the top of the show, we would love to hear from you. Be sure to leave us a rating or review. It's easy on Apple and Spotify, and it's important as it gives our show more exposure as a source for Leafs content. And we thank you for taking the time.
And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. So you can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
And as always, we want to thank our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talking Leafs, presented by Bet Online. Till next time, go Leafs, go.
Leafs, go.
Do you believe?